Hello, my name is Nicole Martin, and I will be responding to John Berzin's on his debate post stating that economic um, interdependence, liberalism, and other forms of government cannot, in fact, create world peace or get us closer to world peace. Um, which I made my debate post on the opposite, saying that these forms of economic interdependence can, in fact, create world peace. So, to start off, John talks about in certain scenarios, yes, economic interdependence can create world peace, but there are certain scenarios that in which it cannot create world peace. Um, I agree with this. However, it's it's there's always going to be what ifs, and by addressing these what ifs, we can act proactively and solve these problems before they ever actually happen. So, for example, with the US and China right now, manufacturers are starting to realize that in cases where there are pandemics, it's going to be very hard to keep their supply chains running because nobody can work, especially with China. Shipping times, communication, things take much longer, even though it is cheaper. And it's just not efficient when a pandemic like this happens and you need to get back up and running as fast as possible. So, as a result, in addition to plenty other grievances such as trademark law and things like that that Chinese manufacturers don't really want to follow, which makes it much more difficult for US companies to work with them. A lot of companies are starting to rethink their relationship with Chinese manufacturers and, in fact, are considering bringing their production back over to the United States just because of the ease. There's a global manufacturing consulting agency called Kearney. And in Kearney's seventh annual reshoring index, they state 3 decades ago, US producers began manufacturing and sourcing in China for one reason: costs. The trade war brought a second dimension more fully into the equation: risk, as tariffs and the threat of the disrupted China imports prompted companies to weigh surety of multiple more fully alongside costs. COVID-19 brings a third dimension more fully into the mix and more arguably the force: resilience, the ability to foresee and adapt to unforeseen systematic shocks. So, this confirms my point that yes, there are going to be what ifs, however, we are adapting to them. And although it's not necessarily going to create a war or some sort of issue with China, we're just going to navigate around it and find a better way for us to have these working relationships that work for the best of us. Um, Second of all, you mentioned the whole issue with the fight in regards to Islamic terrorism. Um, so, in regards to the Iraqi war and things such as that, yes, the sitting presidents at those times stated that it was because of terrorism. And obviously, there is some form of truth that some of it may have been motivated by the desire for the resource of oil. However, we do have that resource ourselves. We do produce that resource ourselves as well. And causing this war with Iraq would not cause such a harmful situation to our own oil needs, because there are plenty of other countries that produce oil as well as ourselves. So by causing these wars, um, it there's no economic interdependence to be